ownership.
Welcome to Revelators on 1590 WCGO or 95.9 FM. Our phone number is 877-711-5611. This is a new show, new title, with a great host, co-host with me, Mr. Joe Severino. What do you hear? What do you say, Joe?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Great to be a part of the show. Looking forward to the direction, the topics, and the interaction with the community and everybody that's out there. Great to have a wonderful guest today, and if you'd introduce him, it'd be great.
Right. Our great guest today is a great attorney for, if you want to put your ballot together, he's a great election attorney. I like him very much. His name is Mr. Perry Abbasi. Mr. Abbasi, thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Joe. And that's right. And it's well, we just had the Chicago municipal elections, and a lot of suburbs pretty much every suburb had elections for either park board or school board, but a lot also had village village elections. But we've got the 2024 election season. It's coming right up. And actually, you start getting signatures for the March 2024 primary starting September 5th, the Tuesday after Labor Day. So it's coming up, and really, if you are running, you can start later. You can start you file petitions in November, but I highly recommend get going on that first week because you want to get enough, because likely your opponents are going to try to kick you off the ballot based on your signatures, and we can talk about all the different pitfalls and traps and everything that they do to try to. The incumbents have rigged the system to make sure people don't run against them.
Of course. And I want to mention Larry Nasmick. He came on the show a couple weeks ago. He is he goes to CAPS meetings a lot. He was district a committeeman for the 35th Ward. He was under Walter Zarnecki. And he sent me this. I was at the 25th Police District Advisory Council meeting yesterday evening. Our PDC people were absent. I brought this up at the meeting, and Sergeant Luis Gonzalez confirmed that he had invited them, although they really did not need any special invitation. The PDC meeting will be on the same date next Thursday as my B2524 meeting. The DAC meetings had once been at 7 p.m., but the police changed it to 6 p.m. since that's better for those who work the day shift. The earlier start was okay because they would provide pizza, sub sandwiches, or something else. We were later told, however, that the DAC funds could not be used for food. Of course, the city has no money to pay the PDC people. The illegals were still on the floor all over the place. Thank you, Larry. What's going on, Mr. Abbasi? You ran for police council board, isn't that correct, for 25th Police District?
I did, and I was an attorney as well for the FOP for a number of the candidates that they had endorsed, both to put together their signatures and to defend them when their signatures got challenged. I ran, and I was endorsed by FOP in the 25th District, which we were mentioning, and also Edgar Esparza was. Mm-hmm. The thing with the office was, and I think you had mentioned it. I remember hearing it on the show. I listened to the show last week.
Okay.
Someone mentioned that most people going to vote, they didn't really know. They were surprised this was on the office. This was on the ballot. It's a new office this year, and there's 22 police districts. Even though it goes 1 to 25 because 3 are skipped. And like in my district, I think a big part of it was people just voted 1, 2, 3, and because that's who won. There were 5 of us running. I was in the 4th position. Edgar was in the 5th position, and the 3 who won were the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd position on the ballot. So there wasn't, even though some people put up signs, some people talked to voters, most people coming to vote in that February election, they were coming for mayor or their alderman. They didn't even know this was on the ballot, and so people were just, if they're either voting based on name or, some people vote on, women will vote for women often.
Sure.
And ethnic too, like Latinos will vote for Latinos, things like that. and even after the election, they haven't, like, I've not seen much. It hasn't been publicized, mainly like where the meetings are, when they are. The city does have a website. They put one up that says, okay, here's your meeting, but people aren't going to, like, if people don't even know this exists, they're not going to even know to look at that website to look for the meeting.
Sure.
They'll know about their cap. So it's, yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of information. It seems they went through this. They created a whole new office. They meet once a month. It's got 3 members. They get $500 a month. But they're not. It's like, why even put this together when you already have the district advisory council? You have the CAPS meetings in each beat. It doesn't. You know, it's nice that there's something to run for now, because in the city, all you could run for basically was alderman. It's not like the suburbs. You can run for the park district or the school district or the library board or the township.
Right.
You know, in the city, it was just, okay, like there was LSC, but the local school council, but there wasn't really anything else. Now, okay, it's nice that there's something else to run for, but it's, you know, people didn't know about it on election day, and it's like people still don't know about it. So I like, until I got that email he forwarded to me, I was like, I don't even know when these district councils meet. And so I looked on Facebook, I Googled. Eventually I found that the city, they've got like a centralized site where you can like look up your police district and see where the next, you know, meeting is. And in the 25th, it looks like they're meeting at like restaurants and cafes, which is, you know, it's kind of, I mean, I guess they can't, the ordinance doesn't say where they have to meet, just they have to meet once a month. But,
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they meet somewhere where there's enough parking for everyone who wants to come out. And like, you know, the 25th, I haven't been to any of the meetings yet. I don't even know.
Perry,
if enough people know
that's
about
kind
it
of
to come out.
par for the course, though, isn't it? Coffee houses, bars, restaurants. That's where a majority of the election groups meet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's like where like political groups will have their meetings. But not, I mean, like in the suburbs.
What I'm asking is, why is that odd? Out of curiosity, why is that odd?
Oh, I mean, it's not. It's just it's interesting. It's interesting that, like, you wouldn't think. You think, okay, they'll meet at a park, or they'll meet at the police district of their space. But it's like they're meeting at a different, like, restaurant or cafe each month, which is, you know, if the place has a lot of parking, maybe that could make sense. But they need to. I mean, generally, it's like it's not really publicized. The only way I could think that it might get publicized is if people sign up for their alderman's, you know, monthly or weekly email. And then maybe in the email, we'll say, okay, this month, the police district council for this district for the 25th or the 15th or, you know, whatever is meeting over here. You know, right now they're basically putting it on people to go on this website, figure out what their police district is.
What is the website? What is the website?
Let me pull it up.
If someone wants to navigate on their own, how can you direct them to the website?
And as Perry's looking for that website, well, hold on. Perry, hold on.
So it's okay.
If you're listening to this show, you have probably thought about running for office in 2024. Many offices will be on the ballot, including state representative, state senator, and Republican ward committeeman. Because incumbents have rigged the system so they can run unopposed, there are many traps that can kick candidates kicked off the ballot. To protect yourself, call Attorney Perry Abbasi at Chicago Law LLC. He will prepare your petitions, explain your signature requirement, and make sure you have the correct statement of candidacy and economic interest. He can also defend you before the Board of Elections if your petitions get challenged. Chicago Law LLC can be reached by calling 773-368-5423 or emailing chicagolaw@yahoo.com. That's you, Perry.
And Perry, can you?
That's correct. And thank you for that. You did. I'm honored to be a sponsor of the Revelators.
And thank you. Thank you. Can you explain a little bit about what the residency requirements that are required for being on the ballot?
So it depends on what you're running for. So for Congress, which you ran for in 22, technically you don't even need to live in the district. You just need to be in the state. So like anyone in the state of Illinois can run in any of the, there's 17 now. It used to be, I remember in the 90s, it was 20 congressional districts in Illinois. Then in the 2000s, it was 18. Then in the 2010s, it was 19. In the 2010s, it was 18. Now it's 17. Seems every 10 year Illinois loses a congressman because people are leaving. So you just have to live in the state, and you can run in any district as long as you get the signatures from that district.
So did you follow it all? Did you follow it all? When we contested Brad Schneider, his residency?
I did, and I remember hearing about that because his house supposedly was like under construction. Right?
Yeah. It never had a habitancy permit, and any circulated petitions stating that he lived there, but they left him on the ballot. Can you explain a little bit about how, when you talk about insulating incumbencies, can you talk a little bit about quickly how they do that?
Right. So there's a few ways. One is the signature requirement itself is pretty high. For state rep and state senator, for state rep it's 500, and you have to have lived in the district for 2 years. For state senator, it's 1,000, and your maximum is 3 times that. So 500 to 1,500 for rep, 1,000 to 3,000 for state senator. So if someone comes in with just the minimum, they're going to get kicked off the ballot, because when they come in with that, their opponent, whether it's the incumbent or if it's an open seat, someone else running, they're going to request a copy of the signatures from the Board of Elections, and they'll give it to them by email. They do it now. And then they'll look at the signatures and they'll say, okay, it's not a registered voter. This person's out of the district. This person is, the signature doesn't match. That's where it really gets messed up, because it'll be a person's name. They'll write their name, they'll write the address they're registered at, and they'll sign it. But because the signature doesn't match when they registered to vote, which could have been 20, 30 years ago, they'll kick that signature out. And then you have to go and try to get an affidavit to recover it. And even if you do, the hearing officer might say, well, I still don't think it looks like the same person. So you want to try to come in with at least twice. I recommend, if you can, get 3 times the number of signatures.
That's what we did. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Congress, it's like when you ran, it was a little different situation because it was the circulating period for 22. The primary was in June instead of March. It's going back to March in 24. And it was in June because the census got slowed up because of COVID.
Delayed,
and so
exactly.
The numbers came out late, and the redistricting went later. But then for Congress, I'm looking at the numbers for Congress. To run on the Republican side, it varies from 136 signatures on the low end in the 7th district, which is Danny Davis's seat, which is mostly on the west side, a little bit south side, and it goes up to, at the most on the Republican end, it's 1,089 in the 12th district, which is way downstate, but it varies between that. Most of them are 400, 500, 600. So you want to try to get 3 times the number of signatures. You also have to have the right statement of candidacy, and that's, I recommend talking to an attorney for that, and that's something I'll make sure it's correct, it's correctly notarized. But I mean, the state Board of Elections does have forms, and generally those forms, if you use it correctly and you fill it out correctly, you won't get kicked off the ballot. But then the problem is some people use the wrong form. People will sometimes, they're running for a nonpartisan office, and they'll use the partisan form.
And we will talk more about this with Mr. Perry Abbasi on the Revelators, 1590 AM, 95.9 FM on WCGO. Thank you.
Producing your own podcast can be frustrating.
Test 1, 2.
Which is why I'm glad to be introducing the brand new multi-format network. We offer digital media, podcasting, and radio broadcasting professional standard production and syndication. Whether you're looking to bolster and polish your business presentations for a Zoom interview, host your podcast, or push your nationally syndicated radio broadcast to a satellite, we can facilitate your every need. So when you're ready to look, sound, and be professional, don't just try to do it yourself. Contact the professionals at the new multi-format network, the Multi-Format Network. From professional syndication to personal vindication, we've got your back. Shoot us an email, mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com. mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com.
It is estimated that 1.5 million people are arrested for DUI every year in the United States. In Illinois alone, over 30,000 motorists are arrested for DUI. Driving under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or drugs is one of the most complex of traffic charges on the books. Most people do not understand the complexities of the standardized field sobriety tests, which are horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one-leg stand test. Due to improper testing procedures, many people are wrongfully charged with DUI. Whether you have been charged with a DUI or an attorney handling DUI cases, the book DUIs Decoded explains the proper procedures for standardized field sobriety testing, breathalyzer testing, and the penalties in Illinois for driving under the influence.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract, and the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050, Monday through Saturday, located at 5945 North Elston Avenue in Chicago. That's attorney Mark Sheblo, 773-775-5050.
All right, we're back on the Revelators. With me, Pat Gibbons, and my co-host, Mr. Joseph Severino.
Hello, everyone. Great to be back.
And we're with our guest, Mr. Perry Abbasi. Mr. Abbasi, thank you for being on the show. We were talking a little bit about putting together petition signatures, right, Perry?
Right.
And also,
go ahead.
I want to bring up, as we all know, the scales of justice is blind in Illinois. It's just ongoing fraud, voting fraud. And I'm sure you've heard things behind the scenes, Mr. Abbasi. For instance, something's rotten in Denmark. Let me say this for the record. At 22:40 on Election Day, all of a sudden, Tammy Duckworth receives 930,000 votes in 1 minute. And that was released to all the press, and all of a sudden, that number disappears. You can't even look it up on Google. It's a known fact. She received 930,000 votes in 1 minute. I mean, it's ongoing election fraud. I'm sure if you heard of this all the time, Mr. Perry Abbasi.
Right, and I've been involved in in challenges when it's like a real close election. There were two in Berwyn I had in 2021. One was a gentleman was running for alderman. He won by 2 votes. Another, and I was his attorney. Another was someone who was running for clerk, and he lost by 20 votes. So when you can't really look at something like that, like when the votes came in. Okay, this batch came in at this point. It's okay. Here's the ballots. Here's the election day ballots. You can look at them.
Well, when you say that's kind of fishy to receive 930,000 votes in 1 minute.
Yeah, and I mean it's a little, and I've I'm not sure why it's done that way.
Let's get a little fishier if we may. Let's get a little fishier, Perry.
Yeah.
What about my race with Brad Schneider that stopped for exactly 1 hour? And when I called the clerk of the Lake County, Robin O'Connor, and inquired what's going on. I had calls from all over actually the nation asking, why did the race stop? They said my flash drive had to be replaced. Well, it doesn't hold any, there's no intellectual, nothing sophisticated about a flash drive. It's essentially storage. So why did it need to be replaced? Every single one of my precincts was undervoted. You know, how do you, as an election attorney, propose that we go forward with free and fair elections without disenfranchising anyone and ensuring the time, effort, and resources are actually applied to the trying to win an election? How do we insulate? Where's the return for our effort? How do we get that fairly?
I mean, I think the main thing is just, and Illinois went the opposite direction. Illinois made it so, like, anyone can get a mail-in ballot, no excuse, and you can sign up so you just get it mailed to you every election.
Sure.
And I think that's like where and it's also has it where basically you can sign off on the envelope to have anyone like drop it off for you.
If I may say, what needs to be done, we need to take away these machines and just go to paper ballots.
Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good. And I mean, there were like paper ballot. I mean, there was ballot stuffing like in the 80s with paper ballots. I know Dick Mell and people like that were ahead operatives. And
they've been stealing elections since the 60s. I think everybody in Illinois knows that. Here's the reality. They're posturing to the public as if these signatures are being scrutinized. The reality is you can test, you can control the sensitivity of that signature requirement. And therefore, if it was a very, on a 1 to 10, if you hit it a 1, I could sign your signature and they would accept the ballot. How do we fight against that from occurring? But that's what's happening. These are being. Because it's. Go ahead.
Like something. It's. Yeah, and I mentioned I mean there was I mentioned Dick Mell. I met him a couple times. He told me stories about how he told his guys, don't stuff the ballots, but then figure they were. But it's interesting. So the signature, they're a lot tougher on signatures when you're running for when you turn in your signatures.
Then counting them.
Yeah, to run than they are for verifying on these mail ballots and the signature on the outside. They reject some, but it's not to the level of these when you sign petition, someone's got petitions, they're coming in, they file the petitions and they'll say, well, this doesn't look exactly like a signature from 1980.
When I question them about that, Perry, they said, Joe, if we scrutinized every signature to make sure it was authentic, we would be here for 4 months. However, if you go to American Idol, somebody can sing and 3 hours later they have 40 million votes counted. There's a way to do this. If people were incentivized to actually have free and fair elections, we could accomplish it. How can people do it? Do you have any ideas how people can kind of get together and force them to hold, fair elections in Illinois?
It's Illinois is difficult to because the only thing that you have, on the statewide level, that you can have binding referendums for, is to amend the Illinois Constitution as it affects the structure and function of the General Assembly. So there was, in 1980, Pat Quinn had a referendum that it changed the General Assembly from the state was divided into 59 districts. Each one elected one senator and three state reps. And kind of a good thing about that was each district had at least one Democrat, each one had at least one Republican. But anything else, you can't have a binding referendum. It's got to come from either the General Assembly passes a law, or if it's amends the Illinois Constitution, they pass an amendment and it goes on to the voters. There's more things you can do at the village and city level, but that doesn't affect elections because elections are run by the county and run by the state board of elections, and certain boards of elections in Chicago and a few other cities. So it's, I mean, really, it's the only way is in Illinois, and it doesn't seem like federal courts are that amenable to like people who've gone to federal court. I mean, there haven't been too many in Illinois, but in other states, it seems like they haven't gotten federal courts basically say, well, the system looks fine. The system Arizona has is fine. The system Nevada has is fine.
Perry, if I may interrupt, you know what's so stupid about running for alderman, for instance? You need 473 authentic signatures, right? But to be mayor of Los Angeles, all you need is 500 signatures to get on the ballot. I'm telling you, Perry, I don't know how you feel about this.
Yeah.
The system is rigged. It's rigged.
It is, and I mean, there's no. You could get away with 100 signatures for alderman. I mean, something like that would make more sense. Mayor of Chicago is 12,500, which is more than governor. Governor in either party is 5,000. It's more for independents. Independents are 25,000. But
they make it harder for an independent. I don't even think there's an opportunity for an independent to be on the ballot anymore in Illinois congressionally.
Well, the congressional. I mean, I printed out the congressional numbers. Like I said, for the Republicans, they vary from 130 to 1,060. For independents, the minimums are crazy, 9,000, 10,000, 14,000. So it's,
and they would have to be a registered voter in order to sign, and not have already signed for a Republican or a Democrat, correct?
So they can have signed for a Republican or a Democrat, but they can only sign for one independent or one third party or independent in the second round. But the issue is, people got caught up in this. If you run or file petitions to run as either a Democrat or Republican, then you can't run as an independent. And if people have tried to, and they've gotten kicked off the ballot for that, where they turned in petitions to run as a Republican or a Democrat. Then they got challenged, so they withdrew their petitions because they saw, okay, they were going to lose. Then they tried to run again as an independent. They get the signatures, and they get kicked off the ballot because state law says, well, if you file, not even if you ran in the primary and were on the ballot, if you file petitions, or if you vote in the primary, that's the other thing too. If you vote in the primary, then you can't run as an independent.
Right, that's getting a little deep in the woods for the listeners. But I will say this: have you heard this? And I did. That the Republicans and Democrats, let's say establishment of both parties, have there's a handshake that exists that they don't attack each other during the primaries and try to knock each other off the ballot like I tried Brad Schneider. And by the way, we went in front of the election board. We went into court. The judge said, you know what? There was such objective evidence to knock a sitting congressman off the ballot. We put a tremendous amount of work, time and effort, and he said, I'm not even going to touch it. If you want to pursue this, go upstairs, meaning to appeal it. They said it was a case so dissimilar from Rahm Emanuel, it would have set precedents going forward relating to the signature gathering and removing candidates from the ballot. Going forward, it is very difficult, number one. But did you hear anything about this where they insulate each other from not being removed from the ballot?
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare. And it is kind of like an agreement of, we're not going to get involved in your primary. You don't get involved in our primary. Yes. I mean, that's basically how it's done. You never. Part of it is so even if I guess some of the idea, even though it really is, it's just like a handshake agreement. But some of the idea is, okay, if you kick someone off in the other primary, the committeeman can just nominate them again. But it could show
it shows the impropriety of trying to. If you can't get on the ballot as a sitting congressman,
it wouldn't have applied because. Yeah, and I apologize for speaking.
It's all optics. It's optics. It's optics. If you knock a sitting congressman off, that's setting the precedent for maybe this isn't the right guy to lead. And it's just not Brad Schneider, but many.
And in your case, they couldn't have put him back on because he didn't have the residency. He
Yes.
wasn't an Illinois resident.
Yes.
So if a court says he's not an Illinois resident, they couldn't even put him back on.
Well, he was a Deerfield resident, not a Highland Park. He just postured as if he lived at a place he was building and he hadn't quite moved in. No occupancy permit. So, but what he should have done is just sent out his petitions from the address where he was actually residing. But we had him. He had to testify in Springfield. We subpoenaed his pizza delivery person, his work record, etc., gas bills, Amazon accounts, you name it. So, but it's almost like all for naught. When you're dealing against the establishment that might want that incumbent there, it's almost insurmountable. Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, it is. And an interesting thing happened with for the 22 election, the Democrats in Springfield and Pritzker, they remapped the Illinois Supreme Court for the first time, since the 1970 Constitution. The Illinois Supreme Court, there's 3 justices out of Cook County. The rest of the state's divided into 4. Each one elects 1 justice. They realized that under the old map, it would have been a 4-3 Republican majority, but they redid the districts because there were 2 vacancies, so that they gerrymandered them so that to make sure that the 2
in their favor,
2 Supreme Court justice races, and they made sure that the 2 Democrats had favorable seats and they both won. Mm-hmm. And you just saw last week the assault weapon, quote unquote assault weapon ban was upheld by the Illinois Supreme Court.
And if I may, Perry, 1 second, we're getting blasted on social media saying that we're lying about how difficult this is. So anyone listening that's calling, anyone that's listening and following along, feel free to call in 877-711-5611. You could speak to the Revelators directly. 877-711-5611. Call us in. We'll make you part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Perry.
Yeah. And so, you saw that the or that might have been 5-2, but it's they redid for the first time ever. Redid the Illinois Supreme Court districts outside of Cook County to make sure that it would remain a Democratic majority on the Supreme Court, so that if, for instance, with Brad Schneider, if you had to take it all the way to the Illinois Supreme Court, then I doubt they would have, it would have been hard to see them ruling an incumbent congressman off the ballot.
Yeah, that's almost non-existent in Illinois. I always refer to my father, who was a big shot Teamsters official, union leader, etc. Since a child, I understood how the cheating relates to elections. And it's amazing how much information, if the public understood exactly what's going on, the underbelly of how all this works, there would be less division and we would all be moving in the same direction. And these are one of the ways they divide us. And it's unfortunate because we could have such greater strides going forward if we could make this all more relevant in everyday lives.
Yeah, no, it would be wonderful if it was just clean elections, absentee ballots for people who are genuinely homebound or out of town. Or
you're in the military, mail it in, of course. A physical challenge, getting to the... to drop a ballot off, or absolutely send it in. But now they're just everybody's going to be getting ballots now, and there's no way to control them. It's so easy: serial numbers, paper ballots. There's ways to make it more of an authentic race, but it's not geared that way, and I don't think that's the result they want.
Yeah, no. I even something that kind of always worried me about like universal mail-in ballots or almost universal is that your vote, if it's like a married couple or a family,
right?
How are you sure that, even on that level, even if it's not, how you can't keep your vote private from your family so much in the voting booth.
I hear you, Perry. We're gonna come back to the Revelators on 1590 AM on WCGO.
Producing your own podcast can be frustrating.
Test 1, 2.
Which is why I'm glad to be introducing the brand new multi-format network. We offer digital media, podcasting, and radio broadcasting professional standard production and syndication. Whether you're looking to bolster and polish your business presentations for a Zoom interview, host your podcast, or push your nationally syndicated radio broadcast to a satellite, we can facilitate your every need. So when you're ready to look, sound, and be professional, don't just try to do it yourself. Contact the professionals at the new multi-format network, the Multi-Format Network. From professional syndication to personal vindication, we've got your back. Shoot us an email, mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com. mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com.
It is estimated that 1.5 million people are arrested for DUI every year in the United States. In Illinois alone, over 30,000 motorists are arrested for DUI. Driving under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or drugs is one of the most complex of traffic charges on the books. Most people do not understand the complexities of the standardized field sobriety tests, which are horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one-leg stand test. Due to improper testing procedures, many people are wrongfully charged with DUI. Whether you have been charged with a DUI or an attorney handling DUI cases, the book DUIs Decoded explains the proper procedures for standardized field sobriety testing, breathalyzer testing, and the penalties in Illinois for driving under the influence.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract, and the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050, Monday through Saturday, located at 5945 North Elston Avenue in Chicago. That's attorney Mark Sheblo, 773-775-5050.
Back on the Revelators. 1590 AM or 95.9 FM on WCGO with Mr. Abassi and my co-host, Mr. Joe Severino.
Hello. So getting back to Mr. Abassi, tell us a little bit more in a elevator pitch. What are the pitfalls for getting on the ballot in any capacity, for any office?
So the first one is to make sure your petitions are correct and they have the right language from the state statute, from the election code, and that courts have said is the correct language. That's step one. Step two is the circulation process, which is something I've seen happen a few times. Is you need to make sure that your circulators, one, they're only circulating for one party or the other. So for Republican candidates, if you're thinking of getting paid circulators, you might have issues with, okay, they're also circulating for Republicans or Democrats, and then their sheet gets thrown out. Another one is making sure the circulator puts the address they're currently living. Even if they show you their ID, ask them, like, do you live at this address currently, or have you moved? Because if they can prove that the person had moved, even though the ID is the same, they can get that sheet thrown out.
And Perry, if I may, this is an opportune moment to say, if you're listening to this show, you have probably thought about running for office. In 2024, many offices will be on the ballot, including state representative, state senator, and Republican ward committeeman, because incumbents have rigged the system so they can run unopposed. There are many traps that can kick candidates off the ballot. To protect yourself, call attorney Perry Abbasi at Chicago Law LLC. He will prepare your petitions, explain your signature requirement, and make sure you have the correct statement candidacy and economic interests. He can also defend you before the Board of Elections if your petitions get challenged. Chicago Law LLC can be reached by calling 773-368-5423 or emailing chicagolaw@yahoo.com. Call soon because the first day to get the signatures together will be in September the 5th. Isn't that correct, Perry? September the 5th?
That's correct. Tuesday after Labor Day, 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay, right around the corner.
And so, if you're, the office is up, or people want to run for Congress. All 17 of the congressional districts are up because they're up every 2 years. All 118 state representatives are up.
And Perry,
some states, a third of the state senators are up, and if you want to talk to me, I can let you know if your state senator is up this time or not.
What is the deadline? When do they have to be returned?
So the last day to file is December. Let me just make sure. I believe it's the 4th.
Okay.
Yes, December 4th. The first day to file is November 27th. The advantage of filing on the first day and being in line at 8 a.m. To turn your petitions is, if you're the only one there at the time, you'll be first on the ballot. If there's more than one person at that time, you'll be in a lottery to be first on the ballot. And that can make a difference. And like in my police district council race, the 3 people who were first on the ballot ended up winning. So especially in lower profile races, being first on the ballot can get you some more votes, because some people just, if they don't know any of the candidates, some people will skip that office, but a lot of people just vote first on the ballot. So the first day is November 27th, the Monday after Thanksgiving, and the last day to file is December 4th. And if you're running for Congress or state rep or state senator, you have to go down to Springfield to file your petitions. If you're running for ward committeemen in each of Chicago's 50 wards, you're running, it has a Democratic and a Republican ward committeeman, and they're all elected this time. They file their petitions at the Cook County Clerk at 6th West Washington downtown. And also, if anyone wants to run for Cook County Clerk of the Court, Water Reclamation District, or State's Attorney, those get filed in Cook County. They get filed downtown at the Cook County Clerk's office. And if you're in another county, if you're in Lake County or DuPage or Will, those get filed at the county at your county clerk.
And God help you if you have the wrong paperwork, Mr. Perry Abbasi, because if you do, you get kicked off the ballot for that as well.
Well, that's true, especially with something people get tripped up on is the statement of economic interest. Now, for Congress, you don't need it, and for ward committeemen, you don't need it. But for any other office, you do need you need one, the correct statement of economic interest, and it's different if you're filing in Springfield, it's the state one. So that's your state rep, state senator, judge, or you file it in Springfield, and that's a different form than the one for county office, which you file with the county clerk. And the other thing is you have to file that first, and then they give you a receipt, and you put that receipt in with your petitions. So some people, they just file the form with their petitions, not the receipt, and get kicked off the ballot for that.
Well, so, Perry, the reality is when you're running for Congress, they should really engage an attorney to turn in their petitions. I know as a, and I don't know if you're aware, but I am filed running in the 10th again for this term. However, you do need an attorney to, it's great that there's civic leaders out there and individuals on different election levels trying to support candidates and help them. But the reality is it's fierce out there. Your disclosure, statement of economic interests, amount of signatures, where these individuals live, they are far more sophisticated in removing you from the ballot than a new candidate is from getting on the ballot. Is that not correct?
That is correct. And so something else people, there's other things people won't even think of. Like, for instance, if there's a reverend running and they want to run as Reverend Bob Smith, or a doctor, and he's like, I want to run as Dr. John Jones. If you put that title on the ballot, you get kicked off. And people would think, well, that's what everyone calls me. Everyone calls me, Dr. Bob or Reverend John.
Really? You can get kicked off for that?
Yeah, you can get kicked off for that. You can have a nick, if it's like when I ran, my full first name is Pericles, but I ran as Perry Abbasi. And for instance, J.B. Pritzker, he was on the ballot. I think his full name is J. Robert Pritzker, but he ran as J.B. if it's a nickname, you can have it on the ballot, but you can't have a title.
As long as it's consistent, doesn't it just need to be consistent?
That's true, yes.
Yeah, so you can overcome that. If you wanted to be, Dr. Brown, Dr. Joseph Brown, but your signs and everything all married up to the same name, including being on the ballot, you're fine?
No. Well, for doctor, it isn't. There's a specific section of the election code that says you can't have a title or a profession. And so people who file petitions with either reverend or doctor or even coach, like there's a guy who's, like everyone calls me Coach, Coach Jeff or whatever. He filed his petitions as Coach Jeff, Jones, and he got kicked off the ballot.
And they do this for name recognition, correct? So everybody knows who it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can't have any title when you're on the ballot. You can have like someone whose name is Richard, they can run as Rich, or someone named Walter can be Wally, or Patrick can be Pat. But you can't be like I'm Dr. Pat. Okay. Even if you are a doctor. You can't have any title on the ballot.
What is the most outrageous thing you've seen that has removed someone from a ballot or through this whole process? Share something. Give us something exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. A couple times where the one I was talking about, the address, where people, like one guy had a circulator who, we did, and I challenged him off the ballot. So it's like a crazy story back to the beginning. Like someone was running against one of my clients, and I was at my client's office. A circulator for the opponent just came by, and I talked to him. I got his number. I asked him where do you live? And, I might have you get signatures. He said, I live in Matson, but I took the train up here. It was on the northwest side of the city. When I saw pulled this guy's petitions, I remembered the name. And his petition said Wilmette, and I was like, I know that guy said he's from Matson, Illinois. So I call him up and try to see what's going on. He said, well, I got evicted from there. It's just still on my driver's license, but I'm staying with my mom. So I subpoenaed him, subpoenaed the landlord, the guy who lived in the apartment now. We went through the guy's signatures first. We knocked him down to he needed 500 for state rep. He was at 570. This guy had 72 good signatures on his sheet. And because we proved that he didn't live at the address that was still on his driver's license, they kicked off all the sheets. And even at the time I thought, well, that's kind of rough because what's a notary supposed to do? The notary sees the ID and it matches, but that kind of set the precedent of you have to have the right the address you're staying at. And there were. I had 1 in 22 of someone running for sheriff.
Hold on, Perry.
County.
We have a caller on the line. Mark, what do you hear? What do you say?
Hey, I just tuned in, and it's Mark Wiremower, Man on the Street. You probably remember me. I was in studio with you guys last week. It's good to hear Joe Severino. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Severino, thank you. Good to hear from you, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, Severino, who ran in the 10th last time. And I would just say I appreciate you running again. And I'm sorry the Illinois GOP didn't give you more support. I'm hoping that it's a little bit different this year. But it's a very interesting discussion about getting on and off the ballot. I just want to call in and say I'm looking forward to sharing the show once you have it on YouTube. So I'll leave you guys, and I look forward to hearing the end of the show here.
Thanks for the support, Mark. Thank you,
Mark. You're always welcome to the show, too. Okay, that being said, if you're listening to this show, you have probably thought about running for office. In 2024, many offices will be on the ballot, including state representatives, state senator, and Republican ward committeemen. Because incumbents have rigged the system so they can run unopposed, there are many traps that can get candidates kicked off the ballot. To protect yourself, call attorney Perry Abbasi at Chicago Law, LLC. He will prepare your petitions, explain your signature requirement, and make sure you have the correct statement of candidacy and economic interest. He can also defend you before the Board of Elections if your petitions get challenged. Chicago Law, LLC can be reached by calling 773-368-5423 or emailing chicagolaw@yahoo.com. Call soon because the first day of petitions starts September the 5th. And I want to get into something that's very important to me, Perry. The illegals. They call them migrants. I call them illegals, whatever. They're all over the police stations, on the floor at 25th Police District. There needs to be something done about this. And the fact is, they're now, because of the governor, they passed a law where now non-citizens can be law enforcement officers. Non-citizens can arrest citizens. There's something wrong with that.
Non-citizens that are prohibited by federal law from carrying a firearm. So how are they going to enforce the police responsibility?
Right.
And going back to the individuals sleeping on the floor of the police department, I think we spoke about the measles outbreak.
Yes, there was a measles outbreak, Perry. I don't know if you know about that in 25th Police District.
Yeah.
There's hygiene issues, there's safety issues, there's legalities and liabilities that the city's going to inherit by doing this, and it all falls on the lap of the taxpayer. Right. And it's outrageous. But I think you're more familiar with that district than we are, aren't you, Perry?
Right, and that law that was passed sort of like, it got everything backwards. I mean, it's the justification, quote unquote, for it was, there's not enough people who want to become police officers. But really you have to think, okay, well, why is that? And it's, well, because police are under attack for like all these different reasons. And then, it's, if you arrest someone, it's like all this paperwork. And it's you can go to trial for if something goes wrong. I mean, it's sort of like, instead of addressing why is there a lack of people who want to be police officers, or like saying, well, let's just let anyone be a police officer.
Well, we went from celebrating them as superheroes and dressing up like them at Halloween to ridiculing them and spitting on them in the street. And they wonder why they can't operate, a prison anymore. Nobody wants to do the job, so they have to let these criminals go. They're making us unsafe. It's just ridiculous the way police officers. I'm a big supporter of the police. I love the police, and we need to do more to celebrate them. It's outrageous the trajectory we're headed here.
In fact, last week at a CAPS meeting, Larry stated, Nazemic, he stated that there was individuals with illegal guns in a car, assault weapons, I kid you not, and now they're just getting misdemeanors. What the hell is going on?
What's going on in Highland Park? Yep. There was a 16-year-old that was just killed by another kid. Mm-hmm. It's this Cook County crime is coming our way. The Cook County crime's coming our way. We have our own Ken Fox, now Eric Reinhardt. They're looking for somebody solid for a state's attorney. And we just have to get behind the right candidates that are going to help right the atrocities we're headed for right now. If we continue on this trajectory, you might as well suit up with an armored suit and an AR-15
just to go
move out of Illinois.
Right.
Move out of Illinois.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, if there's any attorneys listening who would like to run for Cook County State's Attorney, that signature process begins September 5th, the same day. It's about 2,000 signatures.
Well, we're talking to one, I thought.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it takes a lot of like.
That wasn't a fast enough response. We're not finding it authentic.
I'm not sure if I can raise the money you need for that, but.
Well, that's the other way. That's the other way they push you out of the race. The whisper campaign, don't give him money, he's not with us. And meanwhile, some radicals raking in the millions. It's not a system designed for good people to be elected. They want the step and fetch go-alongs.
Yeah, I mean, and Mayor Brandon Johnson announced the new superintendent today, Larry Snelling. Hopefully it cobe been a lot worse, I'll say. So, I mean, hopefully he can make some effort on tackling the crime issue.
Hopefully the crime will deter. And thank you for coming, Perry.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
And thank you for listening to the Revelators. With me, Pat Gibbons, and my co-host, Joe Severino on 1590 AM. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
WCGO 1590 AM, W240EH 95.9 FM, Evanston, Chicago.